Hello, and welcome to our latest episode of Beyond Distribution with GTDC. Today's episode was recorded live at our vendor summit in Madrid. The panelist conversation revolved around AI and its benefits, especially as it relates to streamlining and automating operations and other key benefits. Moderated by IT channel consultant Alex Tatham, the group shared their firsthand experiences and unique insights into solutions and business use cases that are helping to generate interest and actual revenue streams across the ICT community. You will hear from Gel Akta, CEO of Akta Consultancy, Zu Koja, SVP of Architecture and Innovation at Nielsen IQ, Justo Oreja Vega, Director Specialist at Microsoft, and David Watt, CEO of the CI Group. If you missed this year's event, watch out for our save the dates for our events in 2026. Also, be sure to check out our recap details on all the insightful sessions and activities. Thanks for listening.
Before I welcome the panel on stage, I just really wanted to say, clearly, the AI that we're all going to do some is all about math, and clearly the math that we want to talk about is money. That is what generally distributors do when a vendor comes into the room. They put a dollar sign on the board and go, how do I make some of that? And that, I'm hoping, is what we're going to glean from today's panel. Now, I've also read, of course, that all of this, given that AI can now simulate and do voices and pictures beautifully, I'm rather delighted to be here in person, as are the panel, and I'm sure the AI avatar that perhaps I would normally be isn't nearly as entertaining as I hope to be shortly. Nor would my panel. Let's welcome them all on stage. Please sit under your pictures, if I may. Let me start, obviously, with the theme that we've just had. Zu, knock knock.
Who's there?
The interrupting cow.
The interrupting
Moo. Let me ask you another one, David. David, knock knock.
2.71436.
Yes, that is the right answer. Anyway, that's perfect. Really, just to go back to the key point, is to say this is about trying to say, well, where are we going to make some money as a channel? How are we going to advise our customers what we're going to do? But before we do that, perhaps I can go down the room. Jelle, would you like to introduce yourself and along the panel and just give a snippet about the AI expertise that you have?
Yes, of course. So my name is Jelle Akta. I'm Managing Director of Akta Consultancy and co-founder of Blended AI. My background is finance and accounting. I'm ex-PwC from about 8 years ago. And that's where I first got into process automation through the use of low-code and RPA, and eventually got more involved in data science using Python, more complex automations. For the past 2 years, we've been facilitating different companies through Akta Consultancy on the automation of the combination of RPA, low-code, and AI to create intelligent automation. And with Blended.ai, which we founded at the beginning of this year, we really took that to the next level, providing a safe platform for organizations to use AI in a way that they actually have control over the way it's being used within their organization. And creating AI agents as a result of that, and adding those RPA workflows at the back end to that as well.
Yeah, thank you. That's great. Really interesting. And we're interested to see how we're going to use that platform in particular.
Yes.
So we obviously know you very well now. Tell us a little bit more about what your role is at Nielsen particularly.
Sure. I run the buffet table at Nielsen IQ.
Excellent.
I have an enterprise architecture team, a group of AI ML researchers, one of whom you saw having a stroke on stage, also an M&A integration practice, some tech and ops folks, so a bit of a hodgepodge of different capabilities. And in terms of my background, I've spent my entire career in IT, mainly in the infrastructure space. I've done a lot with networking and security in sort of a previous life, and it's thanks to folks like Antonio and the PhD researchers that work for him that I'm able to sort of communicate what I did today.
So thank you. Yeah, Justo.
So I'm Justo Oreja. I'm a director in the Global Black Belt organization in Microsoft. I've been 20 years in Microsoft, always working in the productivity space, what we call in Microsoft modern work. And now we are all over with Copilot. Copilot is my life. The main thing that I'm doing is I'm helping our biggest customers in Europe understand what is the business value and what is the opportunity in relation to capitalize and get a return of investment with Copilot.
Thank you, Justo. And we obviously know that that is one of the ways that we're going to make some money by selling some Copilot, of course. David.
Hello. I've been, for the last 25 years, running a marketing agency, a group of agencies called CI Group, and we're lucky enough to work, focus in the IT channel. So we've got customers like Microsoft, HP, Intel, AMD, and then we go down to West Coast, a big distributor of ours, and also then down to the corporate reseller level, Computer Center, SEC, so on and so forth. And we develop marketing strategies for them, go to market, and we're lucky enough at the minute to be working with quite a few big IT vendors, taking their really complex IT messaging and trying to simplify it and take those products to market. And the second thing we're doing in AI is we're also helping executives understand, doing masterclasses on how they roll out AI in their organizations. So helping them develop roadmaps for the future.
But again, I think that we'll come to that definitely in terms of how we can all take advantage of those kind of activities. Tell me, which particular areas have you seen most disrupted by AI at the moment? Let me start with you, Jelle, just to say, which particular things are you selling, which particular areas are you focused on in terms of disrupting the current market?
So sales marketing is a big area where we're seeing a lot of development. I think we've all seen the most recent development from OpenAI with the new image gen, being able to make pictures with clothes on immediately, perfectly marketable ready. So there's a lot of impact in that, but also in copywriting for different posts, for LinkedIn, or maybe even for other types of for marketing. And another one is finance in terms of insights. So what we do a lot is we speak a lot with different CFOs to really take the new data insights to the next level. So we've all know the data analysts and Power BI consultants have been on the rise for the past couple of years, providing new insights. And now with AI, we can actually connect to different data sources and really get into the nitty-gritty that you can't even see as a data analyst and go way beyond what anybody can do for less money in that sense. Because you don't have to hire the consultant, you can actually just build models and then do it yourself.
Yeah, critical. Anzu, can you add anything to that at all?
Sure, I think we definitely see it in terms of copywriting, we definitely see it in marketing, and we see it in finance. There's a lot of sort of commentary that various sort of regional finance directors have to provide on monthly business reviews, and a lot of that is now just being generated automatically to save that time. From my vantage point, given our products and our competition, there's sort of two ways that we're seeing it. One is, frankly, we're trying not to be disrupted. And so there's an arms race amongst us and our competition to infuse some meaningful features into our user interface and create some additional value for our clients. And we can either do that first, or we can have it done for us and then have to go play catch up, right? So there is, when we talk to our owners, we're private equity, so when we talk to Advent and KKR, there's just as much conversation around who could come in tomorrow, gather all of this data and generate the sorts of insights that you guys have an enormous field force to go and gather this data and generate those insights. So how do you continue to innovate and make sure that those insights are still meaningful and that they provide more value than something that was conjured up by an AI model?
Zu, I think you make a really good point. Not only are you looking forward in terms of all the opportunities that you can make, you've got to look over your shoulder to see who's coming at you.
That's right.
Yeah, and I think that's a really, really interesting point for all of you in the room. Now, Microsoft, I think that you do some work in AI. How disruptive are you finding it almost onto your own business?
Yeah, I can give you a real example with our HR department. I mean, on top of sales, marketing, and finance, two areas that I will highlight as well is legal not only Microsoft, but outside Microsoft. Last year we saw a lot of adoption of AI in the legal space for many different scenarios like contracting, litigation, etc. But in Microsoft, and I see this happening in every organization, is in relation to the contact center space. I think the contact center space is very much disrupted. But if you think about HR implementing solutions to help their employees internally, we implemented a solution. We've been implementing solutions in Microsoft for the last 12 years. But the last couple of years, or the last year, we introduced generative AI in the internal tool that we have to support our employees for IT and HR support. Okay. And the impact that we've seen in the KPIs of the improvements that we're seeing are very significant. From a previous solution that we had that was already kind of AI, it was a bot built on our bot framework solution, but we are seeing KPIs improvements of 25% better answers, 30% of more likely that the employees to solve the issues themselves, and things like that, right? And 30% chances that they won't open a support ticket. Okay. So when you talk about an organization of 200,000 employees, imagine the impact, economic impact
so that's huge disruption in your own business, let alone the business you're disrupting out there in the market.
And I'm mentioning this one because I see this one is a very common, we call it the self-service scenario, it's very common. I mean, it's one that we're implementing in Microsoft, but I see almost every organization trying to do something like this. Trying to build a tool, and you could translate that to the contact center like external-facing solution, and it's almost the same, right? How do I enable the contact center to solve customer issues faster and and make them happier, right, at the end?
Well, surely, I mean, actually, you didn't mention necessarily the contact center, but I would say the contact center and telecoms is one of the key areas of disruption that I'm particularly seeing out there. And I think it's a great opportunity for the channel, particularly. I've always felt that the IT channel are pretty poor at selling into the voice channel, whereas this is the opportunity to smash it all together with Microsoft Teams, Zoom, and other opportunities. But you're going to see all of that sort of contact center be totally disrupted by, I think, AI and all the things that we're doing. Now, clearly, we've heard marketing is clearly going to be disruptive, David. And one of the things that I often say is, if your marketing agency isn't using AI at the cutting edge of AI, sack them. That's what would be my advice to you as an action point. But David, perhaps tell us some of the AI things that you've been deploying with your customers.
Well, I think Zoom made a really good point, because if you don't change your business and adapt to AI, AI will change your business for you, and it's coming. And even Martin Sorrell, I'm sure we all know who that is, he's actually predicting that the employment costs for agencies, so our staffing cost is about 55% of our gross margin. It's going to come down to the low 40s. So the reduction in the cost of delivering marketing effectively is going to be reduced. But that does then create an opportunity for all of you, because there's going to be a massive increase of cost in our AI infrastructures and the apps that we have to buy and build. And one of the things that we're doing now is we're starting to put together a series of different enterprise apps, and if you contact me afterwards, I can give you the list of those. And then we're buying the enterprise licenses and we're bolting those together, and then we're putting that into a secure sandbox, and then we're just allowing that to research information on your company, your information, so on and so forth. And then you'll be able to actually, just with one simple prompt, you'll then be able to get a series of outputs, everything from a podcast to a marketing campaign, to a LinkedIn, to a white paper. It will just produce it all for you. And it will also then translate it into different languages straight in an immediate sense. So that's kind of like where we're going with AI. And
yeah, well, I think that's really interesting for the channel, because that's going to be pretty disruptive, I think, for channel marketing. And a lot of you will be interested in saying, well, how do I use some of that agency, some of that work within the channel to be able to do this all the way across Europe, reducing the cost potentially for vendors in the room and making more value potentially out of the marketing MDF funds that you're spending through the channel. So I'd recommend that as an action takeaway. We heard earlier that there's a bit of, there's going to be plenty of shadow IT going on. And you talked about security here. Shadow IT basically being unauthorized use. Perhaps I could just have a show of hands in the room. Who here has an AI policy for their company in the room? Hands up. Well, that is not all of you. Okay? I was surprised. I would expect all of you to have one. But if you haven't got one, I think that will be your first action that you take away, is you've got to have one. But for those people that did put up their hands, do they know that that AI policy is being followed? Hands up. Yeah. I think that really gives you a sense of, okay, great, we've written an AI policy, it's watertight, it's absolutely fantastic, but people are still going off and doing exactly their own thing, creating a lovely business plan which they present to you, having given the entire company's secrets away by putting it on ChatGPT. So what, Jelle, are you doing in terms of some of the security things that you're focused on in order to be able to sell some of the wrappers and the security around some of this AI?
Yeah, so what we tended to do with Blended.ai is create, like I mentioned, a safe platform for organizations to take back control of how AI is being used within the organization, meaning that you as an organization are in control of how the back end of Blended works, or with your company policies or data, what type of data can be shared, what type of data can be. But we also created the platform to be AI model independent. So when we're talking about shadow IT, most of the people in most of the companies are using ChatGPT. So if they're going to generate any plans or maybe analyze some data, they're going to put company data in there, which is a big risk. So why not use a different AI model, which is safer or more locally run, maybe hosted by Microsoft or Azure, so you're more in control of what types of models are being used. And you can give your employees the opportunity to still use AI through the platform, but like I said, you're in control. That's one component of it, to choose a different model or anything like that. Now, the second part of it is the back-end programming that you can do with the company policies, is how is the output generated and how do you want it to be generated? What type of responses do you want it to give? Based on the company policies or data structures that are being connected to it, like the ERP system, for example. Who has access to what? Can somebody from the HR department do finance analysis or the other way around? You shouldn't want to do that. So you have to be in control of that, but you have to also provide an alternative to the employees besides ChatGPT. And if you don't want any data leaks, block ChatGPT. That's one of the first advices I would give then, to prevent shadow IT.
Well, instead, of course, you could easily use Copilot, perhaps, which you've already integrated into your Microsoft systems. I'm presuming that the security around Copilot would be much stronger.
Well, I think this is policy number one for Microsoft. Our CEO, Satya Nadella, came up with this zero trust approach for Microsoft, which means that any product that we develop needs to have security in mind first. So that's for sure our mindset. So security is really important. We are seeing security is slowing down AI, because when it comes to deploy Copilot, for example, not all our customers have done the homework to have their data, all the security and compliance policies established correctly, so now they need to do it before they deploy AI. The problem is not AI, the problem is that you have not set up those permissions correctly, and now you have to do it because AI could amplify the problem. Okay? So we see a lot of work happening around that, and now moving on to 2025 and next year is all about agents. And when we talk about agents, it's all about connecting to any data. This is all about building a solution that connects to everything, basically, and basically get that. Again, the return of investment, because I can connect to any data, and again, security will be top of mind.
And this will be Microsoft creating effectively an ecosystem of a range of different products that you can use, just as you do in a Microsoft ecosystem today. And that
that's the Microsoft store, or the Copilot store. We're moving away from, not moving away, but we had the Teams store where our partners, ISVs, could publish their applications there. Now those applications are becoming agents. At the end, it's an application that is working with Copilot that you can call from Copilot, but I think this is an opportunity for the channel to build those agents, those applications, and basically everyone through that the store, if it's being approved by the administrator, can use, right?
Well, I think it's a good opportunity for distribution to perhaps look at some of those agentive applications that you're talking about and effectively link them via resellers to the end users focus here, and that feels like an opportunity. And David, you're seeing this presumably as well when it comes to the different types of applications that you're using. I seem to remember when we first started, you gave me, here's our fabulous 4 applications that we're using. 2 months later, you said, well, here are the ones we're now using. Yeah? So the sort of new ones happen every 2 minutes.
Well, there are over 2,000 apps currently, on the market that you can buy, and a lot of those are driven by ChatGPT. It's quite staggering, actually, the numbers that are actually behind that. So you could ban it, but then you might actually stop quite a lot of the apps that are being used in the background working. So that's an interesting thing. But the security aspect is really, really important. But the other part of that as well is the bias that it will then create if you leave it open to the internet. So that's why you need to lock them down, because you need consistency back from the question you ask. So if somebody in one country asks the brand guidelines to do something, or they asked it to, and if it then goes out to the internet, and also looks at your company data at the same time, the next employee will get a different answer. So it's really important that you train your model on your own content, on your own tone of voice, your own brand guidelines, so on and so forth. So that security thing does 2 things. It gives you consistency, and it also stops the bias happening across your organization.
Okay, that's really interesting. Thank you.
A small addition to that, though, because training the model is one way of doing that, but there's also a way of overlaying with extra prompting, extra context to provide your own organization's AI identity, let's say.
Yeah, and you can also do that through putting a kind of like a chatbot on top of it and training that chatbot to respond in a certain way.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, we're using
11
labs.
About these different models, we have a policy. And I tell everyone on town hall calls, right? But don't relax just yet. I tell everyone on our town halls, use Copilot Chat or use Microsoft Copilot. Make sure that the data is sitting within sort of our 4 walls. Don't use solutions like ChatGPT. I am the #1 offender at the company who's out there saying, I'm just going to use ChatGPT. I use 3 things. I use Grok, I use ChatGPT, and I use Copilot. If I want unfiltered, off-the-wall, crazy stuff, I will go to Grok. If I want something that is highly, highly, highly useful and just sort of intuitively gets me, I'll use ChatGPT. If I have something that I want to ask that's very sensitive, I'll go and use Copilot. And I think this point that is being made about some of the system prompts, the initial prompts. Some of the underlying models to Microsoft Copilot and ChatGPT at least a year ago was the exact same model. It was GPT 3.5. But something in the responses you got was qualitatively different, and the big determining factor was the initial hidden prompt that nobody can see. It's the system prompt. And it could be something like, you are supposed to be a useful chatbot, you will help your users do X, Y, and Z. And I feel like larger companies, no offense, like Microsoft, who have reputational damage to worry about and are not, are already in that position of being at the top of this and have a lot to lose, would control that initial prompting by saying, look, you're not going to say anything too crazy. You're going to be super professional. You're not going to be unfiltered. Just control yourself. Don't provide too much value because you might say the wrong thing. And, we can't, Microsoft is not going to stand for you saying the wrong thing. Whereas a company that doesn't have as much to lose, like OpenAI, would just say, yeah, do whatever. But then as they started to get more and more and more prevalent, you started to see the quality of those conversations, even in ChatGPT, start to change. And then if you wanted the crazy stuff, all right, we'll go use Grok.
Anyone else use Grok in the room? There are a few people confessing to using Grok, but that's really interesting to see. I'm going to make an assumption. Do you all use ChatGPT? Hands up. Yeah, all of you. Okay. Yeah, I'm certain that I'm not even going to say do they use Copilot because the answer is definitely yes, because they're all Microsoft distributors generally. So there we are. They'll all be doing that. I was at an event last month. It was Computer Centre's kickoff. Computer Centre being one of the largest resellers here in Europe, and actually now in the US, of course, as well. and the CEO stands up and says, AI stands for additional infrastructure. And obviously, that I think that a lot of the channel have done pretty well about selling some of that infrastructure at the moment. But you mentioned, Sue, earlier about how actually a lot of this computing is now going to be done at the edge.
That's right.
And as a result, there's going to be new devices and new opportunities at the edge in order to be able to do some of this.
That iOS is coming any day now.
Yeah.
I don't know when, but it's
well,
definitely,
these guys do.
coming.
Yeah. And importantly, what disruptive things can you see in terms of new products and new stuff that are you excited about edge computing going on? If anything.
I'm a very low-tech guy, so I don't know if I'm the right person to answer about really exciting things on edge computing, because you know, this is my chosen profession, but in my personal life, I tend to stay away from the dopamine machines. I don't even own one of those smartwatches, and I primarily use my tablet, which is at my bedside, to play podcasts to put me to sleep. So potentially one of the other panelists has some edge use case that they're really excited about.
What about you, Gusto? What would you say?
I'll say right now, we are getting ready for that. The devices are getting ready. In Microsoft, we call it Copilot plus PC. It means that the PC will be able to run some of those models in the edge. So in our cloud, in Azure, we have 1,800 models, LLMs, and that's only growing. And we are moving now to something called small language models, which is basically models that are more specialized, that are like doing something more specific, right?
Yeah.
And we think that in the future, those models might run in the edge, in the phone, in the devices, right? Right now, I don't see any business scenarios. What I see is we will gain performance and security, maybe, right? I was talking before the panel that if you run something in the edge, you know it's running in your device, so it's not going anywhere else. So from the security point of view, could be value there. But right now, I see it more like a improving performance, rather than enabling brand new AI scenarios.
Okay.
I think an interesting use case for a watch could be sort of the health data, right? If you think about being able to, like we've been using AI for years, looking at medical imaging to see, is there something cancerous there, right? Is there something that the radiologist missed when they looked at the imaging? If you have sort of this wealth of information coming from your pulse and your O2 sensors, and you're also able to, with some of these models, link it to some sort of a prediction of a heart condition or something that needs to be addressed proactively versus waiting until you've actually hit the emergency room. Like that also becomes an interesting sort of use case.
So interestingly, we're working with a large pharmaceutical company who are actually now building a test app. So you can actually now buy quite a lot of tests for all sorts of medical conditions, and they're actually working on a product that you can then feed those results into your an application, which then connects to your watch, which then will give you predictive analytics of the likelihood of you catching something in the future by measuring the data from the test results that you're doing, blood samples, and also your biometrics. And that's the future.
I think for the distributors in the room, that feels like a new category almost, that's going on out there. And I think that feels like an opportunity to be able to move into.
There's a morbid example that Antonio and I didn't include when we talked about moving to the edge, which was if you have a vision model in a security camera, at least this is a big thing in the US, to be able to find the next mass shooter before they actually act on whatever they're doing. Like that's one of those cases where you want it at the edge, because who wants to be at that press conference saying, oh yeah, I'm sorry all those people died, our internet connection was down. That's unacceptable.
That's a fair point. I don't think we'll sell lots of those in Europe. Thank goodness.
But if you think about like firewalls, and if you think about how those evolved, we have a number of folks in the room who are sort of at network infrastructure companies or sell network infrastructure. If you think about how that evolved over the years, it started with, okay, well, If you give me a port or an IP address, sure, I'll write a firewall rule to block it. And that then evolved into WAFs. I need to look at this much more closely, and it's not simply about blocking a particular IP address or a port, because there's functionality I want there, but I want to make sure I'm not exploited in a particular way. What if you were able to get a whole bunch of tensor cores onto a firewall and start to look at leveraging a large language model or a small language model, but whatever it was an on-device language model that could actually look at the exact content that was going to and fro and act on that sort of a
That's maybe how we're all going to police our AI policies in the future, perhaps.
Who knows?
As business owners, Jelle and David, have you yet rolled out higher performing machines for your staff at this point yet, as part of what you're asking them to do?
We have. We've looked into a couple of the suppliers that are out here today for Lenovo and AMD, which seems to be a very powerful combination for running local LLMs. So we're very satisfied about that.
Nice.
But we are focusing more on those type of devices for our internal usage for the development as well, because it's becoming more and more important. And by extension, also from a security standpoint, because we're dealing with a lot of client data. So we also need the devices to be able to support that, do everything in a safe way. We do a lot of business with the Dutch government, different ministries, so data security is very, very high priority there. So the devices' strength and power is very important for us in that matter, yeah.
David, do you have something similar, perhaps?
Yeah, we've invested in quite a lot of different devices, actually, to run local language models on. And we see that as a continuous investment. I mean, over the last 2 years, we've retrained every single person in our agency to understand AI, put them through training courses, done workshops, and now, unfortunately, because we've done that, the actual IT demand is the CFO didn't get that quite right in the budget, unfortunately. So he's kind of regretting signing off the training without increasing the actual IT infrastructure budget, but that's his problem. But that will happen, where people haven't budgeted for the future in the next 2 to 3 years for their IT infrastructure and also the number of licenses they're going to need to operate their business. And really, if you think about that, that's a kind of process that you have to go through, and that's why you need a blueprint and a strategy and a roadmap to understand how you're going to get those savings back. So the return on investment model is we're now kind of starting to see that work. Now we're into year 2.
Yeah.
So you need that in your planning cycle. When you kind of like understand your case studies and as you roll them out, and use the ones that are going to save you the most first, I'd say, because that will give you your reinvestment into your next year's budget.
Well, again, I think this is a good opportunity for the channel that distributors need to almost work out how that they can roll out roadmaps for their resellers to sell to their end users. And it feels as though that the aggregation point that is distribution absolutely will help in this particular area. I don't know whose that is, but there we are. So that feels like an opportunity, to be able to do that. And an AI roadmap will be really critical. In the last few minutes, I want to talk about skills, because you talked about small language models, and it feels as though that there aren't enough skills probably certainly in the room today and in the companies that are in the room today. How are we going to change that? Let me ask Microsoft first, because I think you've got a huge responsibility/opportunity for the channel here to make sure that we're all trained on some of these things. What training are you rolling out, and how are you helping the channel today?
The channel specific, I don't know, because I'm not with the partner team, but we see our partners as a key to be successful, right? Microsoft works with hundreds, thousands of partners, and we see the partners as the enablers to do training. But also, I think what is happening with agents is a huge opportunity, right? To explain, to kind of capitalize that opportunity, again, based on how do we help our customers to understand what are those scenarios, more specific with agents, and how do we implement them, right? And how do we secure them? How do we monitor them? How do we know what is the real value, the return of investment that you just mentioned, right? So I think that's a huge opportunity for partners to gain some return there. But also adoption and training. We see it's a very mismatch right now. We see users within any enterprise. This is happening everywhere, that some of them are kind of a friction to AI, that they are kind of a bit afraid, they don't want to resistant. There is a group also that want to learn, and they go really fast. And once they understand the technology, they go way. Some of them, they know better what the capabilities of AI are better than us, because they really see the value, they really see the business value. But to be honest, that may be like 15, 20% or 10% of the organization.
So not enough, perhaps.
Not enough, okay. Yeah. But I will see that will change over time, right? And will cascade down to the whole organization. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that very well describes where we're at in the general market as well right now, in the adoption phase, where people are struggling with the adoption because they don't fully understand it. So there's a knowledge gap. There's not enough knowledge about how AI works. And therefore, it becomes more scary, let's say, and it takes longer to do the adaptation. So there's a big opportunity there in terms of consultancy as well, and in terms of change management, to help them understand what is happening, to create a clear roadmap, and really facilitate those roadmaps and trajectories. Yes.
And certainly, if you're in distribution, it's unlikely that you're having those services yourselves today, but actually it's a good opportunity to outsource, just as you would perhaps IT services.
Exactly.
Yeah, this is a good opportunity to outsource to companies like yourself that effectively can provide these services, which you can then sell through the channel, all the way down to end users. And yourself, David, too. Yeah, we've got exactly those skills at CI Group.
Yeah, we have, and I think it's kind of like in any new industry, when stuff's adopted, you've always got the gloomers, and you've got the zoomers and the boomers, haven't you? That's the kind of the way that we're looking at it. But what you can start to do is you can actually start to, as you upskill your workforce, what you're going to find is the kind of the AI is actually going to start doing the heavy lifting. So all the research that we used to do, all the sifting through data that we used to do, all of that work has now been done by AI. So you're going to take that section out of your business, and then you're going to replace that at the top. So you've got to have I'd say the kind of courage to invest, and then know that the kind of tail is going to drop off, if that makes sense.
I'd be interested to ask again the audience to say, how many in the room have got AI training going on in their businesses today? Hands up. Again, not all. And I think that feels like an opportunity, definitely. If you haven't got that, it feels as though that you're going to need to do that over the course of this year, I'd suggest. It really feels like it's a now opportunity. And it feels that the skills that and the jobs that we're all going to have are going to change all the time. I was with a recruitment friend the other day who says, actually, I'm now recruiting prompt managers. And I mentioned that last night to someone at drinks, and they turn around and go, yeah, but that was last week. We're not going to need those anymore, because actually we're going to get someone to do a different job. So it feels as though that you don't actually know what to recruit into the business. And is that a fair comment? Are you seeing all of that particular?
I think it's even worse than worse. We're starting to talk about managers that recruit agents. So agent managers. So we see in the future there'll be teams that are hybrid, which means that are built by people and agents work 24/7. So you need people to understand what the agents are capable of and how do they complement the people.
How do you do that performance review? That's crazy.
Data analytics.
It's just math.
Yeah, it's just math. Data analytics.
Just math.
Yeah, but in that scenario, who's going to build the agents? Is that going to be Microsoft pre-building?
No, it could be Microsoft. It could be third party. It's an open wall, right? It doesn't have to be, of course, all Microsoft, right? And now we see customers working with multiple solutions, as you mentioned already, right? But we see those applications becoming agents. To be honest, an agent is doing more. It's not just an application. It's doing whatever it is doing, right? It could be very simple or more sophisticated. But I think this concept of what is the impact into the structure of the organization, meaning how is that the structure going to change because of AI? And if their organizations are ready, the structure that they have today is the right structure to adopt AI. I think we're going to see a lot about this soon.
I think every organization should use its attrition rate as a tool to retool the entire organization, right? So if you're losing 5, 6, 7% annually, then that replacement of 5, 6, 7%, you need to make sure you're asking about AI proficiency and literacy, and actually making sure that you hire on people who are unafraid to engage with these technologies, that they're not reticent and they're holding back. Like, that becomes another opportunity. So yes, you do need to reskill the folks that you already have on your teams, but you also have another tool at your disposal, which is whatever your attrition rate is, use that.
Well, that really concludes the session today. I'm sure all of you came and go, well, I'm going to hear a bit about AI, but you probably didn't realize just how much work that you're all now going to have to do when you get back to the office. It feels, if you're in the office, by the way, yeah, that feels like lots of things that we've suggested today, lots of opportunities for the channel to get involved. Please join me in thanking our panel today. I hope you've enjoyed that.